fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
How this guy made millions of dollars while living on $105 per month Social Security checks. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again, Salt Strong Unchurched. This is one of my favorite ones. This story I'm about to share with you, it's inspiring. It has so many life lessons that get me pumped up. Number one is you're never too old. I find myself comparing, and maybe you're like me, comparing myself to others who are, maybe hit it big and they're only 30 years old, or they made the right investment in Bitcoin, or, they're CEO of some little new tech startup. And like, man, they've already done all this at, 28 or 30 years old or 40 years old, 50, depending how old you are, you're looking at different age brackets and comparing yourself to others. And this was a good kick in the pants for me to say, one, as long as I still have a breath, the end is not here. It's never too late. There is always time, because this guy obviously was in his mid to late 60s before he even did anything in terms of hitting it big. And I'm going to share the whole story with you. Number two is nobody cares about my problems, and no one cares about your problems. There's the comparing ourselves to others in terms of, they're more successful than me, or they've made more money, or, whatever it is. And then there's also that just pity party. And I'm kicking myself here again, because I've been there. We moved into a new house. It's an older house built in 1970. Nothing's been updated basically since 1970. And I find myself like just pity partying. Oh, boo-hoo, woe is me. Just crying about all these little issues. And I read stories like this. I'm like, man, I am so fortunate. And quite honestly, no one cares about my problems. They're my issues, and I need to put them out myself and stop complaining. So this is another very big, important lesson. And then the final one, which is why I'm doing this on Salt Strong Unchurched, is faith. I've talked about faith so many times in this podcast. I think we're on episode 90 or so. Faith has been mentioned in probably 80% of them, if not more. It's a big part of my book. It's one of the 4 cornerstones of Fishing for Happiness. If you haven't read it, get it on Amazon. It is, I'm not going to say it's one of my favorite books of all time, but it is. I basically curated 300 of the very best, top-selling, kind of self-help and personal development books, and curated 300 books into like the best of the best, and put it all into really awesome stories. And it's a reason it's got pretty much all 5-star reviews on Amazon. So Fishing for Happiness. And it's really my story too of going through some tough times, depressed, just not really understanding like how I got there. Like, you always go through life when you're a teenager, you're like, oh, I can't wait to get here, and I can't wait to get a job and make money and get married and have kids. And all of a sudden you get there and you're like, man, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And in many cases it can be depressing. And so it's my journey of going through that and kind of figuring that out, and ultimately having some really big aha moments about how to find true fulfillment in life, and the whole journey of quitting my job that I'd had for 12 years and did really well, to starting from scratch in the fishing world with Salt Strong. Anyhow, quick little pitch there for the book, but let's get back into this inspiring story. And the second I tell you this next hint, you're going to know who this is, but you probably don't know a lot of these cool facts about this person. So this gentleman, it's 65 years old, while living on $105 Social Security checks, basically, went into retirement like a lot of people do, and was counting on Social Security to really get him through. And at the time realized that $105 was not going to make it. So he decided, I am going to literally start a new business. It's 65 years old. I'm going to start something new, and I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to have faith in myself. I'm going to have faith in God that it's going to work. And he started pounding doors at 65 years old, all because he was pissed off about his $105 a month Social Security check. And he went around selling a chicken recipe. So you probably know who this is. This is KFC, Colonel Sanders. And not only did he go around selling this recipe and getting like slapped in the face, door shut in his face. I mean, literally had some people like trying to fight him because apparently he was a somewhat of a aggressive guy from what I've read about him in both a good and a bad way. And he got turned down like just an astonishing number of times. I mean, I don't know who counted this, but it was over 1,000 times. So here's some really wild things about this guy. And another reason why no one cares about my problems or yours. So KFC, Mr. Colonel Sanders himself, his dad died when he was 6 years old. So at that time, his mom goes to work, and he's the oldest. So old Colonel Sanders, at 6 years old, mind you, is now caring for his siblings. I mean, he is the one. He is basically the person in charge of the house at 6 years old. So in seventh grade, because he was having to, actually pay bills and, I mean, literally help put food on the table, he actually drops out of school in seventh grade, mind you. Can you imagine seventh grade dropping out of school just so he could get some more work as a farmhand? So he's out there in seventh grade, literally out there plowing fields there in Indiana. I mean, doing just really tough, horrible work that would burn out most adults. And he's doing this just to help out his mom and his kids. I mean, I'm sorry, his siblings, not his kids. It's in seventh grade. I mean, isn't that wild? And here we are complaining about our issues about Wi-Fi is not fast enough and, roof leaks and issues like that I'm personally dealing with. And I mean, this dude in seventh grade already lost his dad and now is having to take on the job of a farmhand just to help put some more food on the table for his siblings. So at age 16, he actually faked his age to go enlist in the U.S. Army to serve our country. He was discharged about a year later and then got hired as a laborer, crummy job in the rail system, in the railways, in the kind of wild. I mean, this is, obviously a little bit back in the day. And shortly after, it got fired because a coworker started a fight with them and ended up getting in a fight. He started getting into law, and his legal career actually got ruined because of another fight, which I mentioned earlier. I think he had a little bit of a temper. And at that point, Sanders was forced to move back in with his mom and got a job selling some life insurance and actually got fired from that. So far here, this is a guy who, just looking at society in general, who lost his dad at 6 years old, and then, out there being a farmhand, dropped out of school in seventh grade, has been fired pretty much from every job, from mostly starting fights and not working well with others. You would think this person would not have a chance in this world. Yet today, we all know who Colonel Sanders is. We all know who KFC is. I mean, that should be inspiring right there, but it gets worse. So next, he actually says, you know what? I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start a ferry boat company. And he ends up trying to do something else with lamp manufacturing at the same time, found out another company he already did a better version. So the ferry company basically crashes and dies because he wasn't focused on it. The lamp manufacturing company he also tried to start, which is why we always say don't do too much, do one thing really well. So now he's back to scratch. He's back to literally nothing. And then at age 40, so now this fast forward all the way to 40, he starts selling chicken in a service station. So he's literally selling chicken at a gas station. And then he began to advertise some of his food, and some argument happened that actually resulted in a deadly shootout. Yes, Colonel Sanders was involved in a deadly shootout. And then 4 years later, he ended up buying a motel, which burned to the ground with his restaurant. So he actually put his chicken restaurant in this motel. The entire thing burned down. And yet this guy rebuilt the thing and ran a new motel until World War II forced him to close it down in the Great Depression. So he literally lost everything again. So after the war's over, things are getting a little bit somewhat back to a better, never normal. The Great Depression took a toll on a lot of people for many, many, many years. But after the war, he tries to franchise what he had there at that old restaurant. And and it was really his recipe, is the recipe we all know today for KFC. So that recipe that he was trying to basically take to the next level and get it franchised was rejected 1,009 times. So that was the exact number, 1,009 times before it was finally accepted. So can you imagine having the faith in something? This is, hopefully going back, if you've heard my past episodes about having a purpose and a written down mission, something you have so much faith in and that you believe God has called you to personally do. And then being that passionate about it and being that excited about it, telling someone or a friend or relative or someone you want to go in business with how excited you are, and getting a no and a no and a no. And I'm not going to do it 1,000 times, but 1,009 no's of people saying this is a horrible idea. It's not going to work. You're a failure. I mean, this is at 65 years old while he's living on $105 a month Social Security checks, and he's being told no 1,009 times before it finally hits. Isn't that crazy? 1,009 no's. How many of you are willing to go through that, to be told no 1,009 times on your idea, your passion, your dream? So I'm telling you, this is the most inspiring story because, one, we're never too old. Even if you're listening to this and you're 80 years old, you're not too old. I mean, this is at 65 when he got his first yes. He was not a millionaire at that point. It took many, many years of really hammering home this whole KFC recipe before it really took off. I mean, it was at 90 when he finally passed away. And at that point, he was a very wealthy person at age 90, but it took many, many years. It was in his late 70s before he really became a big name. And really in his 80s is when he had like his massive fame, if you will. And obviously the most fame has been done after he's even passed away. So isn't that cool? I hope that inspires you, because I know you have a dream. Well, I mean, what is your dream? What is your dream? Well, what's something you've always dreamed of doing, regardless if it's going to be your full-time, career, or if it's something you do on the side as a hobby or as a charity, or something you do to give back on the weekends, or even just something you tinker around with at night. I mean, what is that? I'm just telling you, don't give up on it, regardless of your age. And there's someone I pray about this every time right before I go into my little studio here, that this hits one person. There's someone here listening that needs to hear that. There's maybe it's something you had on your mind forever, and you kind of you get excited about it and you get told no, or maybe a spouse or even a close friend or family member tells you that's a bad idea, it'll never work. Stick with your day job, and then you kind of put it back underneath the pillow and forget about it. But you haven't totally forgot about it, have you? No, it's still there in the back of your mind. And you're like, oh, I can do this. I mean, so every time that you have one of those just bad days, or someone tells you no, think of Colonel Sanders and say, you know what? I'm going to go 1,009 times. I want to hear 1,009 no's before I finally put it up and retire that idea. I'm willing to bet you haven't been told 1,009 times. And I'm looking back at just what I've been through, and Luke and I have been through the past 6 years with Salt Strong. I mean, how many people, including close friends and family, told us Salt Strong was a horrible idea that first year? And I honestly started believing it for a while. I mean, do you have something like that? I mean, we didn't make any money, if you guys know the story, for 18 months. 18 months. We basically were told no by that many eyeballs who saw our brand and were on our blog and on our YouTube videos. 18 months before we actually were able to pay ourselves even a penny in terms of any kind of salary, any kind of compensation. It literally was just kept losing money, and it was really, 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 really tough. But looking back, I was like, man, thank goodness it was God just preparing us and giving us a little bit thicker skin and making sure that we had that faith before he was going to bless us with a lot of amazing things that have happened. So I'm telling you, don't give up. You are absolutely never too old, and have faith in yourself and have faith in God that if he's put this idea in your head, if he's made you passionate about something, then go with it and continue to pray upon it, that God opens up the right doors, that he literally grabs you by the hand and guides you, that he shows you the way, that he lifts you up and shows you that path, that he gives you vision to do whatever it is that you're being called to do. I believe in you, and I'm hoping the story inspires you to never, ever, ever give up on your dreams. Never, ever give up on that one goal, that one thing. Like, man, if I could just do this, before I die. And the Colonel did it. I mean, it took a measly $105 Social Security check to finally get him into gear. Like, he was basically giving up from everything I've read, and he just got literally ticked off about how puny that $105 was, and he was still in good health, and says, you know what? I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to take that old chicken recipe and I'm going to work it. And the dude got turned down 1,009 times before he got that. Yes, man, I love it. I get like tingly thinking about that. So this is my challenge to you. Take whatever it is. Regardless if you put your idea or gadget widget underneath a pillow or in a bank or a vault or just thrown away in your closet, pull it back out of your dreams and try to make it a reality. It doesn't mean quit your day job, but start getting some no's. Start getting some no's underneath your belt, and don't let that scare you. Let that excite you. I had a boss that when I first got in sales that he just said, listen, you better be doggone excited about those no's. And I was like, why? Like, I don't want to get rejected. He's like, no. He's like, every no that you get is one step closer to a yes. You can't get no's forever. Every no is going to refine your pitch. It's going to refine the way that you present it to the next person. It's just going to make you stronger, right? It's going to make you more resilient, right? And so be excited about those no's. And ever since he told me that, I won't lie to you, it's still never fun getting rejected, but it changed my mindset on it. So instead of just, only getting excited about yeses and someone putting an order in for something or saying, yes, that's a good idea, be excited about those no's. It'll change your whole mindset on stuff. It'll make you not as fearful of failing and of getting no's. So guys, I hope this was helpful. I'd love for you to share with me your dream or idea. I'd love to pray on it. I have a long list of people who have emailed me personally, and these are all to my direct private email. No one's ever seeing these, and I don't ever share them. But I'd love to know your dreams. Anything else I could pray on? I really do love hearing them. I try to reply to everyone. It takes me a while sometimes, but it's Joe, Joe, @saltstrong.com. I would love to hear from you, and may God bless you with all kind of abundance in life. And I'm not talking about just monetary, but just fulfillment, right? Because that's really what abundance is all about, of being full of love and happiness and joy and just eagerness to wake up every morning and start the day and to do something big for him and for his kingdom and for yourself and for your family as well. So guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Hope this was a fun one for you like it was for me. It gets me just completely pumped and motivated. The old Colonel Sanders. All right, guys, we out. Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. Find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today. For he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fish in our soul.